Hello and welcome to Minus the Hangover, the NoLo Drinks podcast that reaches the parts other podcasts can't reach. With me, Christophe Phillips.
And with me, Pete Mason.
If you've joined us before, you'll know that every episode we taste 3 no and low alcohol drinks and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down based purely and simply on whether we like it enough to part with our hard-earned cash to drink it again. That's our honest, unabashed views, and you can't say fairer than that. And if you're new to Minus the Hangover, well, let me tell you, the drinks we taste are as varied in style and type as they are in quality, much to our distaste, literally, if it gets the dreaded thumbs down, and much to our delight, if it garners our much coveted, highly prized thumbs up. So that could be beers, wines, spirits or ciders, but also those soft drinks that are clearly aimed at adults, such as tonics, kombuchas and mocktails, and plenty more besides.
Yes, indeed. I think it's fair to say as well that there are some stinkers out there. We haven't actually found that many so far.
A few.
I think very few drinks are objectively bad. Quite a few aren't to my taste, though, it has to be said.
Well, I would say there's a few that I think don't do what you ask a no-low drink to do.
Indeed.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're awful and, unpalatable and you just can't force the thing down. So you're right. Bad is a strong word, but, some are very worthy of the thumbs down we've given them, I would say. But plenty have been very worthy of the thumbs up too.
Agreed.
And not only this, but each episode we bring you The Big Chat, a deep dive into a particular aspect of the no-low drinks industry. And in this episode, well, it's something a little special, isn't it, Pete? In that this is our very first wine special. So, Pete, what does that mean for the drinks we're tasting? And what does it mean for the subject of our big chat?
So, alcohol-free wine, low-alcohol wine, what's that all about?
Well, it's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a fairly big subject. It's fair to say that no-low wines are a divisive subject.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate them. Some people like them. We're going to be tasting 3 no-low wines. We're going to be looking at Kylie Minogue's no alcohol sparkling Rosé.
Mm-hmm.
Nozeco's Zero Still Merlot from France. And McGuigan's Zero Sauvignon Blanc from Australia. We'll be tasting those in a short while. Before that, I want to do a little bit of a primer in a second. And we're also going to be talking about really kind of like what wine is more generally, but also how low alcohol or no alcohol wine is made. It's actually quite an involved process.
Okay, so that sounds good. And before we even get into the first of our tastings, Pete, you wanted to set that scene, didn't you? A little context on what we need to know about no-low wines going in.
Yeah, so no-low wines, they're widely available right now. Every supermarket has got a reasonably broad range of still and sparkling wines. But when it comes to replicating the experience of the standard versions, wine is really quite a way behind beer. And particularly lager. No-low lagers do a very good job. No-low wine does not taste the same as standard wine. And this is very important going in with this in mind.
But I think that's right. I think that is the common perception, and I think it's based in fact. It's not just us saying it, it's not our personal views. I think that's a pretty commonly held belief about wine. It just doesn't quite stand up, whereas some no-low beers and lagers in particular kind of do.
Yeah, there's some fundamental differences between, let's say, beer and wine. So with wine, alcohol is a massive part of the drink. It's, depending on the wine, between 10 and 15% ABV. You compare that to beer at maybe 4 to 5%. So you're looking at a third. So in wine, alcohol supplies a lot to the experience of tasting. It gives body and weight. It gives a sense of richness. In the mouthfeel, the substance to it, thanks to the alcohol. It provides a little bit of softness. It balances acidity and tannins. There's warmth from the alcohol in terms of the flavour. Sure. And in terms of the taste, there's enough alcohol in wine where you can actually taste the alcohol itself, but also it's a solvent and it's a carrier for other aromatic compounds. So kind of the fruity, floral, spicy notes, they're amplified. It's actually kind of similar to the role that fat and salt plays in food. In that,
interesting. Yeah.
It's basically it's a carrier for other flavours, and it really accentuates them. So basically, in 4 words, alcohol does a lot.
And that's before we even get into the effect it has on the drinker, which can be part of the experience. Of course, you drink enough wine, you're going to start feeling it. But we're just talking about what it does for the taste, for the mouthfeel, for the experience of drinking it, not to what it does to your body.
Yeah, we're talking about basically the experience you have in those few seconds of you physically putting it in your mouth and tasting it and swallowing it. So overall, it seems like it's a trickier problem for the industry to solve than beer or cider. And I don't know, maybe it's a tech issue, maybe it's just not there yet. I don't really know. What I'm trying to say is the upshot is don't expect exactly the same experience drinking NoLo wine as you will get drinking standard alcoholic wine.
I think that's fair.
I also think this is the cause of a lot of friction when people try NoLo wines in terms of it matching their expectations. And I'm not really going to point fingers as to why this is. Whether or not it's the industry pretending it's going to be the same experience, or whether it's just kind of an automatic assumption. And I don't want to tell people how to drink NoLo wine, but I just want to tell you how I approach it. I manage my own expectations. So if I'm going to be trying a NoLo wine, I'm going to expect a different balance of flavours to the standard wine.
Yeah.
The big thing I'm expecting is less body. And kind of less, oomph, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean by that, because there is a sort of sense that when you have a standard alcoholic wine, it kind of does something. It leaves or makes a very bold first impression. And NoLo wines haven't necessarily cracked that yet. So you're right, oomph is a good word for it.
That's the first part. It's basically managing my expectations. But then I think about, right, what is it I'm looking for in a NoLo wine? What do I want to get out of it? Yeah. Firstly, I want something that essentially does the job, whatever the job is. So basically, that means something that's got a similar set of flavours to wine.
Yeah.
As I say, it can't be the same, but I want it to at least be reminiscent of wine. I want it to taste like wine to at least a broad extent.
A kind of workable degree, some sense of scratching the same itch.
If I had to classify this drink that I'm currently tasting, then wine would have to be the closest category, basically.
Damned by faint praise there. It's, at a push, absolutely, I can't think of anything else. It's a wine. No, hopefully it's better than that.
This is a low bar. And the second thing I'm looking for is that it tastes good, that I'm enjoying it. Even if it's different, okay, fine, but does it taste good? The third is it sippable? So I want to drink it in the same way that I drink wine, rather than the same way I drink, let's say, grape juice. So I'm naturally quite a fast drinker of soft drinks, and I don't want to absentmindedly neck the glass of NoLo wine.
It's funny, actually, because you're right. The way that you drink something is almost something we have to be taught or that we learn. You approach a beer or a cider differently than you do a wine, and differently than you do a spirit, if it's neat particularly.
Yes.
So there is a certain way of using your tongue, using your mouth, using the way that you swallow it to get your experience, and kind of, I don't know, learning the way to handle the drink. And you're right. If a NoLo wine is going to be drunk, then you want it to be drunk in the same way, using that same experience. Yeah,
very much. So, sippable is what I'm looking for. Next thing, I want it to have a bit of complexity. It doesn't have to be terribly deep, particularly if I'm paying supermarket prices, £4 or £5 a bottle. I'm not expecting, Chateauneuf de Pape or anything like that. But I want it to have some level of complexity.
Yeah.
And connected to that, I want it to taste like it's aimed at adults. I don't want to be sipping fruit juice.
Yeah, we've touched on this quite a few times, actually, even in last episode where we talked about what it is that these soft drinks that we might be covering, but they have to be aimed at adults. There is a different thing to that. And you're right. When we have a lot of these analogues and they're using fruit juices, we don't want it to feel like it's a soft drink.
No, that's it. Absolutely. If I'm paying kind of wine prices, I want the whole kind of wine experience, even if it doesn't quite taste the same. Speaking about taste, so again, the way that people approach NoLo wine is that they're expecting something which is identical to the real thing. Yeah. But actually, I think it's probably an acquired taste. And what I mean by that is that, so anyone who's had normal wine or drinks it regularly acquired the taste for it. You don't, as a kid, love the taste of wine. You might love the idea of wine when you see your parents drinking it or whatever. You'll have a sip, it's like, what on earth is this?
Why would anyone want this?
Absolutely. So a lot of alcoholic drinks, including wine, including beer, they are acquired tastes.
Yeah.
We are motivated to acquire them, often in our teenage years. And once it's acquired, we actually genuinely like it. We're not faking it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I wonder whether NoLo wine right now is an acquired taste. And it's a different taste to wine in lots of important ways. But I wonder if it's an acquired one. And if it is, then maybe with enough motivation, we can acquire it.
Okay.
Even if it doesn't taste quite the same.
Yeah, I follow your logic there. And I think you're definitely onto something. We have to, we've touched on this in lots of different tastings. We have to approach things in their own merit.
Yes.
But like you say, there might be some kind of background, some context that we have to ourselves bring or adjust or adapt to with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all the tasting, sort of the preamble I want to talk about in terms of how we're going to approach the tastings themselves. One more thing I want to talk about is that when we're talking about NoLo wine, there's two main ways of making it. The main way that most wines do is they take standard wine and they remove the alcohol. So they make it, they de-alcoholize it. And the theory behind that is that's how you get closest to the real thing in terms of the whole overall experience.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at the supermarket, almost all of them are going to be de-alcoholized. The second way of approaching the problem, as it were, of creating a kind of non-alcoholic wine is to work out the flavour profile that you want to achieve and build up a new drink from the ground up to achieve that.
Without alcohol.
Without alcohol and without what we might think of as wine in being involved at any stage. So people who are doing that, they're thinking, right, what does a wine taste like? What are the individual elements that we want to replicate? How can we achieve those individual elements?
Okay.
So, for example, if we want to add tannins to a drink, we've got tea. Tea has tannins.
Okay.
So we can use tea to add those tannins, quote unquote, naturally, without even needing to resort to flavorings or artificial ingredients or anything like that. Similarly, if you've got kind of some spicy or fruity or herbal aromas that you naturally get in wine, why not let's look at some fruit or some herbs or some spices and adding that to this sort of base drink. So yes, those are the two main ways of approaching the tricky goal of replicating the wine experience in an alcohol-free manner. And that's where I want to end it now in terms of the preamble.
I mean, I think that's great, Pete. I think that gives us a really nice sort of starting point. And I don't know about you, but I think that's primed us pretty well, not just to understand what we're talking about, but to kind of get going on our tastings. I'm feeling thirsty. Let's get on with our first tasting, which I believe, Pete, is from a certain Australian pop princess.
So this is Kylie Minogue No Alcohol Sparkling Rosé. And it is a sparkling rosé wine asterisk because it's not quite a wine. It's in a 750ml bottle. It is a zero product. There is no alcohol involved. And I bought this for £6 in Morrison's. Now, this isn't like most other sparkling wines because it isn't and has never been a wine. As I said just now, a lot of drinks are de-alcoholized.
Yeah.
This one isn't. So this actually has never been near wine. It does have grapes in it.
Never been near wine. Never been near alcohol.
Well, absolutely. It's never been near alcohol or a wine or anything like that.
Or a wine. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So it does have grapes in it, but as an ingredient, they haven't been fermented with yeast. So does this do the same job as a standard de-alcoholized
I guess
wine?
that's the big question, isn't it?
Let's find out. So it is a crystal clear, kind of palish pink, peachy colour. Reasonable amount of carbonation in there. On the nose, immediately I get peach from that.
Yeah, it does feel quite light and fruity, doesn't it?
Yeah, peach, bit of grape. The bubbles, of course, really kind of like lift flavours. So that's often why kind of sparkling wines are more kind of aromatic than still ones.
And there's some nice kind of lighter spices coming through as well. Bit of vanilla maybe. Maybe a touch of cinnamon or something kind of lighter that could go with a sweet. It almost smells a bit sweet, actually.
And yeah, quite intense. That smells really good.
It does. It's very inviting.
Yeah, should we go in for the taste?
I think we should.
So immediately, I can feel those bubbles. It's quite heavily carbonated, not unpleasantly so.
And they are quite small bubbles as well, so it does have that sort of more champagne end than the cheap Asti feel to it.
It doesn't feel like a carbonated drink like a pop or a Coke or anything like that.
It's a very pleasant mouthfeel because it kind of floods in and the fruit flavours are there, but there's also almost a level of sourness, the dryness coming through. It really, I think, does a very good initial job on replicating a sparkling rosé, actually. It's fruity, it's slightly sour, it's got a drying quality to it, and the bubbles feel small and kind of very appetising. Not bad.
The tannins are definitely there. Absolutely. It is fruity. It tastes adult. There's a real balance there between dry, sweet, a bit of sharpness. It's relatively complex, really, for something that I bought off a supermarket shelf.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm not convinced that rosés are the most complex wines anyway.
Sure.
Actually, I think they've done a pretty decent job here of capturing what a rosé feels like. Certainly on the initial thing. Aftertaste, I'm not sure. It doesn't quite follow through like a standard, but like you said, if you approach it in its own right, I think that's very pleasant.
I think it's really good. It's not as sweet as a lot of rosés that I have had. And I have to say, I prefer this to a lot of rosés that I've had. I am really enjoying it. I think it's actually really nice. And I said earlier on about I was looking for something that I would sip rather than gulp. And this is absolutely sippable. I couldn't neck a pint of it.
No, and not just because it's fizzy.
No.
The sort of the tannins that are there, or that drying quality, the sourness, that slight sharpness to it, it absolutely recreates what you turn to a sparkling wine for. And I think it captures a rosé feel quite well. So it's not just that it's drying or sour, but it has that fruitiness and that sweetness coming through, but not too cloyingly. It's pretty balanced.
Yeah, it's very approachable. I have to say I like it. I didn't know what to expect, but yeah, it's a very pleasant drink.
Yeah.
In terms of the drink stats, so serving size, a medium-sized wine glass is 175 ml. In that, calories-wise, you're looking at 39 calories, 9 grams of carbs, of which basically all of it is sugar. So that's about 2 teaspoons of sugar for a standard medium-sized wine glass. It is vegan. It is gluten-free.
Very good.
In terms of the ingredients, carbonated water is the main one, which is, I guess, what you would expect. Non-alcoholic fermented grape juice concentrate is the very appealing second ingredient.
That's quite Ronseal, but I guess that's what it is.
Exactly. I know exactly what they mean by that.
Yeah.
Then he's got a green tea infusion, which is great, and presumably where a lot of the tannins come from.
Yeah, it's that drying quality that you get in kombuchas as well. You can get that sense coming through.
Then we've got tartaric acid, citric acid. We've got a colouring as well from carrot, which is presumably the source of that quite pleasing rosé, pinky, peachy colour.
Yeah, it's not carroty orange, though, so they've obviously used it sparingly.
Absolutely. And then just some kind of preservatives and natural flavourings, whatever those are. It says it's made from European grapes and Chinese green tea. And yeah, it's very, very pleasant. In terms of kind of where you can get it from and price, it's in the supermarkets, Tesco, Asda, Morrison's. Price-wise, go to Asda. We didn't. And
I know, we weren't we? We were absolutely been done.
Absolutely. We paid £5 and we could have saved 2p.
It's $4.98 in Asda. So how's that for not just a price match? We are not sponsored by Asda, by the way. Let's just make that very plain. Genuinely, when I researched it, 2p, it jumped out like it matters. It doesn't matter.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, so in terms of the sort of production of it as well, so these grapes have been fermented, but they were not fermented with yeast. They were fermented with bacteria. And so no alcohol was actually produced when it was fermented. So I think, reading between the lines, what it's doing is it's converting essentially malic acid, which is in the grape juice naturally, and it's kind of tart and it's sharp. And the bacteria convert it into lactic acid, which is kind of a bit softer.
That's also what you feel in your muscles when you go to the gym and they burn. That's lactic acid.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another thing you get from fermentation, both bacterial and yeast, are other compounds. And you get something called diacetyl. And it's kind of responsible for kind of buttery notes in drinks. So it's quite a common thing in certain white wines. If it's kind of tastes a bit buttery, that's due to the diacetyl, thanks to this kind of bacterial fermentation.
And I am getting that from this. There is that slight sense where it's got a rounder edge to it, that butteriness coming through, rather than just being sharp and sugar.
Yeah, very much. And so that's why the grape juice in this is fermented rather than just put in as straight grape juice. And it does make a difference. So this wine is from the Kylie Minogue wines range. They do 9 wines in total. Most of those are the standard alcoholic ones, but they do have 2 NoLo ones as well. They've got this one, which is the no alcohol sparkling Rosé, and then they've got the no alcohol sparkling Blanc. I don't know why they call it Blanc rather than white, but maybe sound posher? I don't know.
It's pretentious. I mean, pretension, I guess, sells more. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Except I don't really think this is pretentious. I think actually it's a decent drink. It's not badly priced. It's £6, I think.
Or £5 with your more card, or $4.98 even.
Indeed. I think it's pretty good value from that perspective. So, yeah. And then the other thing, of course, we've got to look at is in the NoLo space, there are a number of sparkling wines. And there is one which is quite a bit cheaper than this. Nozeco is £3.25. So it's 2/3 the price. And which is better, this or Nozeco? And that's a very good question. What do you think?
I think that they both stack up really well against each other, actually, but that they do slightly different things. I think the Nozeco works really well as a white, as a sparkling white. But I do think this is excellent as a sparkling rosé. Really, I think it's excellent. And I think it works so well because of those tannins coming through from the green tea, presumably. But also, like you said, that was it, diacetyl, the buttery notes coming through.
Yeah.
To me, it feels really balanced. The price is an issue, clearly. If it's 1/3 more to pay for a bottle. But it depends what itch you have to scratch. And I think this works really well at that price. I think it's a really excellent NoLo. I really do.
So, yes, in terms of your final judgment then, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Well, I think it's no surprise. It's a resounding thumbs up. I think it's really delicious. I poured myself another glass. I love it. Genuinely.
Yeah, I'm basically in agreement. It's not the kind of drink that I would normally pick up in standard, guys, to be perfectly honest. No. Maybe I'm missing out.
Well, maybe the branding as well isn't kind of for us. And that's fair enough, but it's almost like we're missing out on that because they've branded it in a very specific way. We wouldn't necessarily try it, but I'm really pleased to have.
Yeah, I think, if I was going to buy a sparkling wine for whatever reason, generally speaking, some sort of celebration, and I wanted a NoLo version, and I saw this on the shelf, yeah, absolutely, I would buy it. Thumbs up for me.
Well, that's 2 thumbs up for the Kylie Minogue no alcohol sparkling rosé, and it's a really big thumbs up, the one I'm giving.
So now let's talk about the main subject of this episode, which is wine and NoLo wine, and how do they turn one into the other, and what's the difference? Let's start, as we probably ought to, in prehistory.
Okay, well, a lot of our features have started like this, so I like
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, so, wine as a drink has been around for literally thousands and thousands of years. And the earliest known traces of wine itself actually date back to 6000 BCE, so 8,000 years ago.
Wow, that's early.
And they were found near Tbilisi in Georgia, which is the country, not the state of Georgia. So in the Caucasus near Russia. So in terms of how long that's been around for, that compares to beer as a relative youngster. It's only been around since 3,500 BCE, so 5,500 years ago. And indeed, the oldest evidence that archaeologists have found of any fermented drinks is 7,000 BCE, so 9,000 years ago. And that was kind of a weird mix of honey and rice and grapes and hawthorn, which some people in China decided to make into some sort of alcoholic beverage.
Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of the earliest winery itself, that actually dates back to 6,000 years ago. So about 4,000 BC in Armenia, which is next to Georgia in the Caucasus, just north of Turkey. And that actually included a fermenter, a 65-litre fermenter for wine. So they were making 86 bottles of wine in one go 6,000 years ago.
Wow, they're getting bang on it for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
It was a big party 6,000 years ago.
It was. Zipping forward a few thousand years, the ancient Greeks had a wine industry. And they even had named varieties of wine like we do nowadays as well. So, for example, Chian, as actually spelled Chian, but it's pronounced Chian, was the first red wine, although the Greeks called it black rather than red.
You can see where they're coming from.
They also had other varieties. Another really famous one was Coan, Coan, and that was actually mixed with seawater for reasons best known to themselves.
I mean, adding saltiness to it, drying quality, I don't know. I mean, it sounds grim.
It was very popular, and in fact, it was exported throughout Greece and beyond. It was a really popular wine, and in fact, so much so that basically they had kind of a problem with people passing off wine from elsewhere as Coan wine. That's as much history as we really need to go into, except for the fact I just want to quickly talk about old world versus new world wines as well. So old world means basically everywhere that wine was grown prior to the discovery, quote unquote discovery, of the new world. So we're looking at southern and central Europe and the Middle East. So we're looking at Spain in the west to Georgia and Armenia in the east, Germany in the north to Lebanon and Israel in the south. All of that area basically is the old world when it comes to wine. New world is everywhere else outside Europe that makes wine. Obviously, you're looking at the Americas, South Africa, Australia, China, Japan, all New World countries when it comes to wine. Colonists, European colonists back in the day, they loved wine, and they took vines basically everywhere they were colonizing. So Columbus famously sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Indeed.
And he ended up somewhere around Hispaniola, wherever it was. The first vines went out 2 years later. They could not wait to get them established out there.
Well, what's the point in making landfall and claiming all this new land in the name of your king or your emperor if you can't raise a tipple to celebrate as you go?
Indeed. So, yeah, literally, New World wine essentially dates since 1496. It's not a new phenomenon. Even if you're looking at Australia, so the first British colony was in 1788. They were setting up this penal colony in New South Wales.
Yeah.
On the fleet of ships that went out there to establish a penal colony, they took vines with them to make wine.
So it really is embedded in the colonial experience, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I suppose the moral of that story is, though, that, or not the moral, the message of that story is that wine is centuries old everywhere that it's being made. It's not just a traditionally European thing. Right, how do they make wine? This is a very broad overview, and I'm simplifying some details because we're here to talk about NoLo wines, not necessarily about wine.
I'm going to dive right in on this one as the expert. I'm going to say grapes, water, and magic, because I don't know how they get it to actually ferment or anything like that, but I know it's essentially grapes. Yes,
well, less water than perhaps you might imagine if you think that's...
Oh, really?
That's not really an ingredient.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
It sort of is, but... We'll get into that in a minute.
So it is. Right, I'm holding you to that.
So the first step is always harvesting the grapes. So the grapes are picked at peak ripeness.
Okay.
By that, I don't mean the most ripe, by the way. The level of ripeness that you want, or the peak ripeness, depends on what kind of wine that you're producing and what the desired flavours are. So as grapes ripen, they lose acidity and they gain sweetness.
Right.
The other thing as well is that tannins change as well within the grapes. Okay. So they soften as the grape ripens.
So an unripe grape or a less ripe grape is sharper with more tannins?
Harsher tannins, yes, rather than more tannins. So basically, if you're producing a crisper, lighter wine, you will pick your grapes a bit earlier. So there's more acid and less sugar.
Okay.
Conversely, if you want a full-bodied, more robust wine, you pick your grapes later when more sugar is present, which will eventually get turned into alcohol.
Okay, yeah.
Once the grapes are harvested, they're then crushed. And then what happens next depends on the colour of the wine. So white wine, the juice is separated from the skins, and then the juice is fermented by itself.
Right.
With red wine, the juice is fermented with the skins in what's called maceration.
Okay.
Because the skins give colour, they give tannins, and they give various flavours as well.
Right.
So the upshot of this is that basically red wine, because it gets its colour from the skins, it can only be made with black grapes. So you can only make red wine with black grapes.
Okay.
But the juice of those black grapes is generally kind of quite pale and clear. What that means is you can actually make white wine from either black grapes or white grapes. because it's the skin that gives the colour, not the flesh or the juice itself. I mean, as it happens, not many white wines are made with red grapes, except one of the most famous varieties of white wine, which is champagne.
Oh, really? Okay.
A very big proportion of the grapes used in champagne production are red. It's Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. They're both black grapes. The third grape they tend to use is Chardonnay as well.
Okay.
And so most standard champagnes will be a mixture of 2 or 3 of those. But yes, you have red and white grapes going into champagne.
But a clear liquid that ferments.
Absolutely, because they don't use the skins in the fermentation. They just use the juice, basically. So you actually, as a little aside, you get Blanc de Noir champagne, which only uses black grapes. And you get Blanc de Blanc champagne, which only uses Chardonnay, which is the white grape that they use. But most champagnes are a mixture. So rosé wine, I can hear you asking, what's that involve? Well, I can tell you. So basically that, again, it uses red grapes, but they leave the skins in contact with the juice for a shorter amount of time. So there's less flavour and less colour than you would want to get for red wine.
But longer than just for a white wine.
Well, yeah, because with a white wine, it's taken away straight away. The other way of making rosé wine, although this is very much frowned upon, is by mixing red or white wine, which is, what I did as a teenager, quite frankly. But that's not...
The heady days in the park.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's pretty much frowned upon. Incidentally, orange wine as well is a thing. Yeah. And what that is wine where the juice is from white grapes, but the white skins are left in contact with the white juice as well, and those skins impart that kind of goldeny orange colour and the flavours as well. So that's what orange wine is. Initial fermentation, once you've got the juice, and in the case of red wine, you got the juice and all the other bits that are involved with it as well, like the pips and the skins, you basically put it into big temperature controlled vats, which are usually stainless steel just for hygienic reasons. You add yeast, and the yeast turns the fermentable sugar in the juice, which in this case is fructose and glucose, into alcohol and into CO2. So if you've got a red wine, it'll take somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks for this primary fermentation to turn most of the sugars into alcohol. And the fermentation's kind of warmish, so it's between 20 and 30 degrees C. White wine is around about a 2-week fermentation, and it's fermented cooler, and sources vary, but I've seen figures of between 12 and 22 degrees for white wine. So it's a good 10 degrees less for white wine compared to red.
And I'm amazed at how much it achieves in just a few weeks. So 1 to 3 weeks for red and 2 weeks for white wine. That doesn't seem enough to do what it does for the flavour, because it's definitely not just grape juice after a couple of weeks.
That's the primary fermentation, and that's where most of the conversion of sugar to alcohol takes place. But then you've also got a secondary fermentation as well.
Okay.
And this is where flavours are kind of rounded out by a number of different ways. So the secondary fermentation for red wine, at this point you remove the skins, you press the skins just to get the last bit of juice out, and that's actually 15% or so of the wine is contained in those skins. So they absolutely want to press them and then get that 15% out and add it to the rest of the juice. And with red wine, it's fermented for weeks or even months in vats. Now, that might be in oak barrels, it might be in stainless steel, it might be in concrete tanks.
Really?
Yeah, and a cheaper way of oak fermenting, as it were, rather than putting it into oak barrels, you can actually buy oak chips. And so if you put it in a stainless steel secondary fermenter, add a few oak chips in there, and it will add an oaky flavour to it.
Achieves the same thing. Yeah, amazing.
Well, similar. I'm not going to say that it's exactly the same end result, but it's aiming at a similar goal. And during the secondary fermentation, we get this bacterial fermentation that we talked about earlier on. And that's converting the malic acid, which is tart, into lactic acid, which is softer. And so one of the purposes of this long secondary fermentation is so that red wines turn from tart to soft.
Right, yeah.
And that happens in the secondary. With white wine, the secondary fermentation is typically a lot shorter because you kind of want to maintain a bit of kind of freshness. You perhaps want those tartar flavours in there, the kind of fresher flavours.
Yeah.
So it might be oaked, so in which case you will put it into oak barrels. You might want those diacetyls in there. We talked about those butteriness as well. And so those kind of white wines, you want to have this secondary fermentation so that it develops those flavours. After the secondary fermentation, we then blend it. At this point, these juices are blended. So often you'll see bottles of wine which say they're a blend of this grape and that grape and the other.
Yeah,
it's at this point that happens. So they have fermented the different juices, they blend them together. And also, even if it's a single varietal in the bottle, they'll often blend them for the sake of consistency. So in case things have fermented at different rates or there's slightly different flavours in there, they have a particular flavour they want to achieve, perhaps. At this point, they are blended. The next step is clarification. So basically, at this point, you've got this kind of fermented grape juice. It's alcoholic. It tastes pretty good. But it's got bits in it. Not like massive chunks of twig or anything like that. But it has got solids and it's got particulates in there. So what you then do is often you'll add what are called fining agents. And the big reason for this is clarity. So generally speaking, when you're wine making, cloudiness is not a feature in the final product that consumers will accept.
Right.
And part of that is kind of the suspended proteins that are in there. Another reason to fine is to remove unwanted tannins.
Okay.
And even to make kind of red wine slightly less red as well, you can actually find that. So if you're adding these fining agents, it's clarity to make the wine clear, to remove the haze, maybe soften the flavours. And typically, historically, at the very least, these fining agents are all animal products. So they were gelatin, normally pig or cow based, or isinglass, which is used for beer production as well, and that's from fish. Other ones include casein, which is a milk protein, or albumin or egg white. So a lot of wines, they're not vegetarian even, never mind vegan friendly, because this is the point at which animal products are used.
Now, I had heard that wine was often not vegetarian or vegan, and a lot of people have a bit of a kind of blind spot to that, because I think it isn't kind of commonly known.
No, absolutely.
You kind of hear it as a rumour, but you don't really know about it. No one knows, or I don't know the process particularly. I certainly, looking back at when I worked in pubs, I don't think I was ever asked, not once. But that was back then.
Sure. So those are animal products that are often used. There are vegan alternatives. So there's bentonite clay, there's carbon, there's something called PVPP. Needless to say, they are all vegan, and so often when you have wines which state they're vegan friendly, they've used these sort of finings.
Right, okay.
Alternatively, you can filter, which does a big part of the job, or you can just leave it for a while, and often these things will drop out of the liquid anyway. And the fining process, this clarification process, takes somewhere between a few days to a week.
Right.
And then we've got the very final step, which is filtering and bottling. There is one final filtering step, and that is a very, very fine filter that removes bacteria from the wine.
Oh, wow. Very fine then.
Yes, extremely small holes. And so it's pushed through there. The bacteria are filtered out, and that helps prevent spoilage in the bottles. So it really kind of means that there's going to be fewer bottles that are spoilt, and the shelf life will be longer as well. So that's how you make wine, essentially.
Wow. Is there any moment in that process where things are added, like preservatives?
Yeah, there are some sulfites that are added. They are added both generally at the beginning when the grapes are crushed. You add sulfites then to preserve those grapes and that juice whilst it's not being protected by the yeast. And then right at the end when you're bottling as well, you'll add stabilisers and sulfites.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's to make the product shelf stable. It's actually very difficult to make something that is both drinkable or edible and stable, that's sat on a shelf of a supermarket for weeks or months and then sat on someone's shelf at home for who knows how long and is still safe to eat after that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Right, that's how you make standard alcoholic wine. And why have I told you that? Because most non-alcoholic, most NoLo, no and low wine is made in this precise manner and is then de-alcoholized.
Okay, yeah.
So they take standard wine, they remove the alcohol, and they do that in three main ways. One is vacuum distillation. Now, vacuum distillation. We've got distillation. What does that mean? That means you boil the liquid or heat it up to split it into different parts. So basically, things like brandy and whiskey are made via distillation.
Yeah.
Because alcohol evaporates quicker than water does. So if you heat it up, the alcohol evaporates, leaving the rest of the liquid in the container. So that's basically the theory behind distillation. If you're making brandy, you want to keep the alcohol and discard the rest. If you're making low alcohol wine, you want to get rid of the alcohol and you use the rest.
Okay, yeah.
Now we're talking about vacuum distillation for a reason, because in order to get it to the temperature in which alcohol evaporates, you're basically killing the wine. I mean killing it in the sense of it's going to taste like awful. afterwards. You're almost
Okay,
boiling the wine. So
Right.
how can we make it so that we evaporate the alcohol without getting it up to the temperature needed? We put it in a vacuum. And with the kind of machinery that they use for this vacuum distillation, they can reduce the pressure so much that actually, rather than it needing to be at about 78, 80 degrees, it only has to be 30 to 35 degrees for the alcohol to evaporate.
Which presumably is low enough not to spoil all the complexity that they've worked hard to get into the liquid.
I mean, that's the theory, yes. I mean, if it's entirely successful is perhaps, subjective.
Another big question.
Indeed. Yeah. But it's certainly going to be better than 78 or 80 degrees. The second way they do it is something that's called a spinning cone. And this is like an even better version of vacuum distillation. So basically, you've got this big stainless steel column, and inside it, you've got this kind of stack of upturned cones that spin. And so you put liquid in the top, and it kind of cascades down all these cones. It sort of looks like a chocolate fountain.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that.
If you can imagine a chocolate fountain, you've got the chocolate coming out of the top, and it cascades down over these sort of like circular things. Imagine that sort of spinning. And also the cones are the other way up. But essentially, that's what it looks like.
See, I was picturing, what is it? What is that machine that James Bond gets trapped in? Is it Moonraker? And it goes faster and faster. A centrifuge.
Ah, yes. No.
I was picturing something like that where they'd have to spin inordinate sums or like amounts of wine at a time. And just the bulk. I don't know what I was thinking.
No, but I mean, it does use centrifugal force, though, because the way that it spins, it pushes the liquid against the sides of the cones in a really thin layer, and that maximizes the surface area so it evaporates more easily. And so it takes maybe 25 seconds for the wine to go through the cone, and it gets up to maybe 35, 40 degrees, but that's all you need to do.
And then the alcohol just sort of evaporates away.
Yeah, so you collect the alcohol, you can then use it as a winemaker, however you want to use it. But what remains is the wine without that alcohol. So that's spinning cone. Then the third one is reverse osmosis. And that's essentially a filter where the liquid, the wine, is pushed through. Water and alcohol are filtered out, leaving everything else. And then you replace the water. That's it. Basically, you have filtered the alcohol out. Now, the downside to that is you can only really do like a couple of degrees of ABV in one go. So if you're taking like a 12% wine down to essentially zero, that might be 5, 6, 7 goes through this reverse osmosis machine. And the more you do it, the more kind of damaging it is potentially to the flavours.
Okay.
So certainly the bigger winemakers, they will absolutely say, yes, we're using the latest spinning cone technology to do this, because I presume it's just a better way of doing it. It'll preserve more of the flavours.
And, things like reverse osmosis then are one tool of many in their arsenal, but not the whole solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also worth saying as well that if you're producing normal wine and you just want to reduce the ABV by a couple of points, you can use any of these as well. And they are frequently used. So if you've got a batch of the grape juice, which basically ends up as being 14% or something, and actually really aim for 12, stick it through a reverse osmosis machine, or stick a portion of it through, put it back in, and all of a sudden you've got 12% rather than 14. So that's how they make no and low alcohol wine. Now, we've mentioned what alcohol does to wine in terms of the incredible amount that it adds to the flavour and the body and the mouthfeel and so on.
A lot of heavy lifting.
A lot of heavy lifting. So the winemakers, they do go some way into trying to replace that. So with the body, for example, they'll often add sugar. Not ideal, because obviously you don't want a particularly sweet wine. So they add often what's something that's called rectified concentrated grape must. Or
sounds delicious.
Absolutely. Or just concentrated grape must. And all that is basically the sugar from grapes. Right. So they've literally taken grape juice or grape must and they've extracted the sugar, and that's what that is. So it's fructose and glucose, Maybe they want to add a bit of acidity to the wine, in which case they add, citric acid or something like that.
Yeah.
There's aromas that sometimes are missing, or maybe they need to be more apparent. And for that, they'll add things like natural flavourings as well, which could be any food grade aromatic, essentially.
The mysterious natural flavourings that we've touched on many times.
That's it. And so these are kind of the ways at the moment that they try and make up for the lack of alcohol in these low and no alcohol wines. But are they successful?
Well, clearly, in some instances, yes. But I know, certainly from the buzz and from other ones I've tried, no. So, it's a mixed bag, isn't it?
It is difficult. And I'm not sure the tech is there at the moment. I think the tech is there to produce drinks which can taste good. They're not close analogues that I have found, or that I'm aware of even being out there, judging by other reviews that I found online, both from professional wine critics and from the general public. But, who knows? Shall we try another couple of wines and we'll see if they've succeeded at the very least?
I think we should absolutely give it our best tasting. Well, and just to add, thanks for taking that deep dive there on wines and NoLo wines and how it's all made. Fascinating stuff, and I think it's done quite a lot, certainly for me, to really open up what is, a surprisingly complex process. So well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Our second wine that we'll be trying today is Nozeco Still Merlot, alcohol-free.
Okay.
So this is a red wine-based drink. It's from Nozeco, and they're a brand of a French company called Les Grands Chais de France. It's in a standard size 750ml bottle, and quite a snazzy one, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? It's almost like kind of mermaid scales up it. It's really, really quite attractive. And it's a clear bottle as well, which is quite unusual for a red wine. So you can really see the colour of the wine.
It's very pretty on the shelf in the supermarket, I have to say. It is a zero product, so it's 0.0% as labelled. Now, I bought this in Morrison's for £5. We are trying this essentially because we liked the Nozeco sparkling that we had back in episode
a lot.
1, I think it was.
I think it was.
Yeah, and yes, it was very, very good. Is this going to match those high expectations?
Yes, it's a big ask to see if their Still Merlot is at the same level or even, close to it.
Let's give it a taste.
Well, it's a very rich and fruity colour. It's very, it's kind of opaque with it.
It is. It's really kind of deep ruby red. You cannot see through it at all. Let's give it a whiff. Okay. Yes, that's
not quite what I was expecting. It's a bit funky.
Yeah, I think so. I'm possibly detecting a bit of yeast.
It's got a fruity element to it. There's fruit there, and not just kind of berries, fruits, but there is this weird funkiness to it.
It is a bit weird. Let's go in on the taste, shall we? Okay.
I feel the same.
So it tastes sort of vaguely fruity to me. I can't detect much complexity there.
I think yes, there are fruits there. It's darker fruits. It's those kind of forest fruits tastes. A kind of plum, blackberry. It's quite brambly actually. There's almost that earthy taste to it.
I agree with that.
But does it have complexity at all? I don't know. You sort of taste it and it tastes like a kind of slightly sour, slightly funky fruit juice.
Yes, I can detect some tannins in there. It's definitely slightly drying as it goes down the throat. Overall, I don't think it's very complex. It's certainly not complex enough for what I'm looking for. And I said earlier about sippability. It's not a sippable drink. For me, I would quite happily just knock back this entire glass in a couple of gulps.
Yeah, those tannins work on the aftertaste. Then you feel your tongue start drying off. but it doesn't work when it's in your mouth.
No.
But it does kind of feel a bit like a red wine, but it doesn't do that complexity. It doesn't hit the taste buds, and it's missing those kind of flavour profiles that you get with red wine.
It's just a bit too straightforward for my taste in terms of selling itself as a wine alternative. For a £5, I'm just looking for something a bit more, really. Something that replicates the experience of wine a bit more than this.
So that's the thing. I think it's halfway towards what a red wine does. I find it quite unsatisfying, and I don't know, it's sort of when I sit and think about the flavours, everything I would say makes it sound like it's a red wine, but the experience just feels very sorely lacking.
So in terms of the stats, looking at 175ml as a serving size, so a medium-sized glass of wine, you're looking at 49 calories, 12 grams of carbs, and most of that, 10.5 grams of sugar. So it's about 2.5 teaspoons in a medium-sized wine glass. It's labelled as vegan. It is gluten-free, but not labelled as such.
It's labelled as vegan right on the front, actually. Suitable for vegans, just below the other main details. There's not a lot on that label, so they really are making that a point.
Absolute gold star for Nozeco in that respect. In terms of the ingredients, it's de-alcoholized Merlot wine. Then it's also got natural flavourings and some preservatives. The sweetener in this is rectified concentrated grape must, which I mentioned earlier on. It's just basically sugar.
That's right.
It's sugar from grapes. That's all that is. In terms of kind of price and availability, it's around a £5. You can get it from Morrison's, from Ocado, and also from Amazon. We've already talked about Nozeco as a brand. It's French. There's actually a couple of other wines in Nozeco's still range. There's a still Chardonnay and there's a still Rosé. So to conclude this particular tasting, I'm going to not really beat around the bush. I don't really see the point. It's fine. I'm going to give it a thumbs down. And that's basically because it doesn't do what I want a NoLo wine to do, never mind a wine. There's not the complexity. It's not sippable. It's not interesting. There are better alternatives for the same price. So for me, a thumbs down.
I am on the same page. I think it does 50% of everything I want it to do.
Yeah.
So if it went further, if it did more, if it took chances, if it was bolder, if it just did more, then I would give it a thumbs up. But because it doesn't, it's like I'm drinking a glass of wine or a NoLo wine that's literally been watered down 50%. That's how I feel when I drink it. I'm not particularly enjoying it. It's very pretty to look at, but that's not enough. From me, it's a thumbs down as well.
So that is 2 thumbs down for Nozeco Still Merlot Alcohol Free. Our third and final wine for this particular episode is McGuigan Zero Sauvignon Blanc. So this is an Australian wine. McGuigan are a very big Australian producer. You see their wines in supermarkets throughout the UK. This is a white wine. It is a zero product. It is a 0.0%. It's a standard 750ml wine bottle, and I bought this in Morrison's for £4.25. Now, we actually picked this particular wine thanks to a listener suggestion. So thank you to Steve Jones for recommending this to us.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. We always appreciate it. If anyone else does want to make a suggestion to us, well, you know where we are, and details at the end of the episode of how to get in touch.
The other reason that we're trying it as well is we actually had their Zero Shiraz back in episode 3, and we gave it, I think, 2 thumbs up.
I think that's right.
Yeah, something we quite enjoyed. Right, let's get stuck in. It's very clear. It is quite pale. I can see a kind of greeny yellow tinge. It's quite nice.
Definitely a tinge of green to it.
Yeah. In on the nose. Ooh, that smells like a Sauvignon Blanc to me immediately.
Yeah, it does, actually. It's got the freshness of the fruitiness that comes through, but it has a kind of, I want to say almost a sourness to the smell in the inviting way. It feels like it's going to be drying on the tongue. It's going to have sharpness to it, and that it's going to be quite sippable in the way that you were talking about, Pete.
Let's find out. So, Immediately, there's quite a high level of kind of minerality. There's minerals in there.
Yep.
The body isn't particularly thick, but I think it's okay. A little bit watery, not too bad. I don't know about you, though. When I swallowed it, it's like bang. All of a sudden, you get a big explosion of flavour. So I'm getting acidity. I'm getting kind of sharp green apples and gooseberries and that kind of really fresh green fruit.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. When you first kind of bring it into your mouth, it's fine. There's sort of sweetness there, there's sourness there, it's a bit sharp and all that. And then you swallow it, and it is like you've had green apple sherbet or something. Like, bang! There's extra levels of sweetness comes out, extra levels of that tartness in a really attractive way. And it instantly makes your saliva glands go. Like, really? Ooh, that's very satisfying.
I really like it. It's very crisp. It's not too sweet. It is tart with sweetness as well. So it's one of those flavour combinations that you and I both like, I think. It's either tartness and sweetness or bitterness and sweetness. It's got enough complexity in here, even on that kind of like very basic level, that it does a good job. And it's sippable. It is sippable. I couldn't drink a lot of this in one mouthful.
I mean, on the negative side, I do feel that there's a little bit of contention here between the sharpness and that sourness and the sugarness. I'm not convinced they're quite sitting together, or if they're slightly in opposition to each other. It does balance, I suppose, because I like it. And it is crisp, but it's almost like my brain is breaking it down into sharp and acidic on one hand and sugar on the other hand, rather than those two really marrying together.
No, fair enough. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it, I have to say. I didn't know really what to expect out of it, but no, it's nice.
It's nice, and I think it crucially does what a NoLo white wine needs to do. That crispness, that drying quality, that tartness, that fruitiness that inspires your taste buds. As an analogue to standard white wine, I think that works very successfully. As a NoLo white wine, that's really standing up. Very good.
So from a stats perspective, again, assuming a medium glass of white wine's 175 ml, you're looking at 42 calories, 10.5 grams of carbs, of which 7.5 or around 2 teaspoons are sugar. It's both vegan and gluten-free. Ingredients-wise, 95% de-alcoholized wine, grape juice concentrate, which again, I think is there for the sweetness. And then it's just got some preservatives, some acid, citric acid in this particular case, ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, and it's an antioxidant. And then a thickener as well. It's got acacia gum in there, which I think will help with the mouthfeel, essentially. As far as NoLo wines, that's a very standard set of ingredients. Price-wise, you're looking at somewhere between £4.25 and £5, depending on where you go. It's in Morrison's, it's in Tesco's, Sainsbury's and Waitrose. Actually,
I think I found it for £3.75 with my Tesco's card. Yeah.
Bargain. Very good.
Love a bargain.
One of the reasons as well that I wanted to feature this particular wine is because they talk about how they de-alcoholize it, and they use the spinning cones that I talked about earlier on.
Okay, yeah.
And they're quite pleased with themselves with the way that they describe it on their website. So clearly they feel it does a good job, and I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
The zero range that they have as a whole, they've got this one, which is Sauvignon Blanc. They've got the Shiraz, which we tried in episode 3 and liked. They've also got a Chardonnay, they've got a Rosé, and I believe they've got sparkling options as well. So maybe we'll give those a try in the future. I want to close this by giving my verdicts. And one thing I would like to say, just to kind of emphasise, not just for this particular wine, but all of these, is that there's definitely something missing, and that thing is alcohol. And I don't think you would, in a blind taste test, between this and a standard version of the same wine, I don't think you'd be fooled.
You wouldn't mistake it, no.
But that's not really the point here. The point is it a nice drink? Does it essentially taste like a Sauvignon Blanc? And yes, it does. Is it sippable? Is it adult? Is it complex? Do I like it? All of those, the answer is a resounding yes. It's a resounding thumbs up.
I completely agree. It scratches all those itches that you want a white wine for. Does it stand up against it? No, there's something missing. But it's really good, actually, and it's really nice, and it is sippable, and it's that drying thing that makes me keep coming back for more. I really like it. It's a thumbs up from me.
Excellent. So that is 2 resounding thumbs up for McGuigan Zero Sauvignon Blanc.
So there you have it, our very first wine special. Well, our very first special episode. And you know what, Pete? It was a little bit special. Not just in conception, but dare I say, in the execution as well. So give yourself a pat on the back.
You can't see me, but I'm doing exactly that as we speak.
Actually, I can see you over our video call. And he was really doing it. And dear listeners, we hope you all enjoyed it too, at home, on the move, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, speaking of which, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically anywhere you might find a podcast, because you're a clever bunch, and where there's a will, there's a way. And if you like what we're doing and think your friends, family, co-workers, or even your neighbours might like Minus the Hangover too, well, please do spread the word. It really does help us build our audience. And you'll get your very own thumbs up from us too. Not bad.
Very nice indeed. Please do put the word out. Podcasts like ours live or die on essentially people telling their friends about them. So yeah, please do.
We really want it to live, because we're really enjoying doing this and bringing all these NoLos to you. And, you know, hearing from you guys as well. Some of you are even drinking along as well, which is a really lovely thing. We're creating a community, and we couldn't be happier about that. It's very cool. So, to that end, you can follow us on X or Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Linktree, all the socials. Just search at Minus the Hangover, all one word. And as ever, if you've got a suggestion you'd like to put to us, or a drink you'd like us to review, please do get in touch. Oh, and I just wanted to give a final shout out to anyone taking part in Sober October. So this episode goes out on the 30th of October. And if you've been taking part, well, look, you're nearly there. You did it. And you know what? If you didn't take part, maybe it's something you want to think about for next year. Look, there's more NoLos than ever to choose from. So in theory, at least, it's getting easier and easier.
Yeah, and maybe it's something that we'll do next year as well, because I know neither you nor I, Chris, partook, as it were, this year.
I've never done it, actually. So maybe we should. Yeah,
well, maybe. No promises.
And of course, the day after that is Halloween, the 31st. So if you are taking part in Sober October, well, look, you're not quite there yet. You can't have a big blowout for Halloween. But the good news is you can enjoy a NoLo, of course, and you can binge on all those sweets. You know, they're not just for kids. That's all I'm saying. Not just for kids. So, Pete, what's on the drinks menu for next episode?
We are tasting 3 beers. Erdinger alcohol-free wheat beer, Peroni Nastro Azzurro Zero, and Heineken Zero as well.
And with the big chat next episode, I'll be looking at the top-selling NoLo beers globally. So place your bets now.
Ooh, I want to say Heineken.
Well, you're going to have to find out next time, but hold that thought is all I'll say. Hold that thought. So there we go. Thanks for joining us at Minus the Hangover with me, Christophe Phillips.
And with me, Pete Mason.
Have a great week and enjoy whatever drink takes your fancy, minus the hangover. Lovely stuff. Thanks a lot. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Chris, after hours for episode 7.
Yeah.
It's about a week later. We have just listened to the final episode. And one thing just before we start, because obviously we had our little production meeting before this.
That's right.
And this isn't just an after hours. Obviously, we've decided it is an extended after hours.
It is big news. Dun, dun, dun. Or rather, this is a cool thing. It's going to be different.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll have the first 5 minutes of this after hours after the episode, and then kind of like fade out, and then we'll say something on the lines of, to hear the rest of this after hours, tune in next week, and point at people at,
Yeah, but I think it's the right call, because actually you know this, we've found quite a lot of, every time we've been doing the after hours, we've been cutting it down and what we should talk about. And this conversation between me and you is a massive part of how we craft the episode. So I don't want to have to just kind of rattle through bullet points and do everything like that. I think this stuff's worth getting into a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we normally talk for quite some time about various bits about each episode. So yeah, I think so. If we release the episode 1 week, so let's say episode 7, and then we release episode 7A, 7AH the following week. Okay, so right, that's the problem.
Hours.
What do we call it? Because how do we number them if it's episode 7 but it's not episode 8? Right.
Well, it's episode 7 after hours.
Yes. Okay. Yes. 7AH. Fine. Okay. We've solved that problem. Excellent. Very good. Very good.
If only every problem could be solved literally like that. Well, we do this. Well, let's do that then. Fine.
So quickly. But about the episode itself, then episode 7, how did you find it on the first hearing, I suppose?
It was just really nice to kind of sink our teeth into some wine. Sure. I thought 2 of them at least were really good. No prizes for guessing which one I didn't think was very good. But actually that was borne out. So, I always say like how we do these tastings and I try and finish the drinks. I don't like wasting things, but if I've liked it, why wouldn't I want to finish them?
But we also wouldn't want to like finish 3 bottles of wine, even know those stuff. I mean, that's like over 2 litres of liquid.
It's quite a lot. And actually, you talked a lot about how it has to be sippable anyway, and they were quite sippable.
You'd be there all day, wouldn't you? Yeah,
it's a long 2 litres. So that was the first few minutes of Minus the Hangover After Hours. If you'd like to listen to the rest of it, that is going to be released as its own mini episode, if you will, in a week's time. So do check it out.